6 p.m. in Aji Square in Jindom in the Momo Division, Northwest region of Cameroon. Same time in Kumba, in the Meme Division of the Southwest region of Cameroon. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. Our major stories tonight: civil society leaders are calling out President Paul Biya for using what they qualify as feel-good words that don't match the country's harsh realities. According to them, in his New Year's speech, diplomat, President Paul Biya's tone was a far cry from the police brutality and military crackdowns that have marked response to issues like the Anglophone crisis and equally post-electoral crisis. And away from that, the absence of Senate President Nyat Defendi and National Assembly Speaker Kavaige Jibril at President Paul Biya's New Year's ceremony has raised questions about the country's leadership style. Some young Cameroonians are saying this shows a problem with having older leaders in power, saying it leads to disconnection with younger generations, old-fashioned thinking, resistance to change, and issues with succession planning. Those are top stories tonight. Good evening once more. This is the 6 p.m. edition on Equinoxe TV. Thank you so much for joining us for presentation. I am Immaculate Fogwe. Markets across Douala are off a tough start on this new year, following a challenging end-of-year period marked by economic crisis, strain, and a political or post-electoral crisis. Traders in major markets report a noticeable slowdown in business compared to previous years. The festive season, typically a peak period for sales, fell short of expectations due to political situation, which has taken a toll on the country's economy, leading to increased living costs and reduced purchasing power among Cameroonians or households. Lom Magnero visited Mbopi and the New Dado market in Douala and now explains to us the situation on the ground.
The end-of-year festive season in Douala is usually a time of intense commercial activity, but this year sales were unusually low. In many markets across the city, traders say business was low and expectations were not met. It was like every day. We didn't have customers as usual on feast periods. It was a little timid. I bought goods, thinking it would go out like previous year, but it's still there. Economic uncertainty and recent social tension have also affected economic confidence. Non-perishable goods are now sold no more for interest.
Yeah, I don't have any choice than to dump at a lower price. Yeah, because I can't allow my money to keep stuck in one place like that. It's not really good. I just need to dump it. Yeah, to dump it at a lower price just to have my money back, to have my capital back.
Perishable goods like meat are now sold according to the demand, regardless of the prices. We cannot reduce the prices. We are trying to satisfy everyone according to what they have. This means that if an aged woman comes with 1,000 francs for a kilogram of meat, I will have to serve her according to what she has. For wholesalers of alcoholic drinks, this end-of-year celebration was catastrophic. We don't know what to do with what we have in stock, despite the promotion. When the drum beats of celebration is weak, the markets cannot dance. The timid end-of-year festivity in Douala reveals a deeper economic hardship where empty pockets silence busy stores.
And now we talk politics. The Cameroon National Salvation Front CNSF party is making moves in Gaundare. Party militants have decided to take part in the municipal and legislative elections despite a tense political climate. And during a meeting, the party representatives also welcomed new members, as Siri Chakutio tells us.
To the legislative and municipal elections, a new wind is blowing through the ranks of the Cameroon National Salvation Front, despite a still tense political climate marked by the aftermath of the October 2025 presidential election. The party's militants in Gaoundéré have decided to break their silence.
La vitalité du parti est là. Nous sommes dans le même lancé que les élections présidentielles.
They have summoned their courage to publicly declare their intention to participate in the municipal and legislative elections, despite the ongoing tension in the country following a presidential election deemed controversial by many observers and opponents.
Il nous rejoint parce qu'il est visionnaire. Il voit ce qui est en train de se passer.
The Cameroon National Salvation Front has recently welcomed several members from the National Union for Democracy and Progress UNDP party.
Je pense que dans la vie, tout un chacun a une ambition. Et aujourd'hui, ces partis politiques ne me donnent pas l'opportunité d'avoir une ambition politique.
Hassan, former UNDP militant, says his motivation stems from the party's numerous political ambitions and the desire to better serve their constitution within a different framework.
De révolutionner, si je parle de révolutionner dans le cadre politique, la vie des citoyens camerounais.
While voter registration continues, the official date of these 2026 legislative and municipal elections has not yet been revealed. Faced with this mobilization of the Cameroon National Salvation Front militants in Gaoundéré, a major question remains: will the party leader follow his militants?
And we stay in politics, where civil society leaders lambast President Paul Biya over his use of empty words that sound comforting but contradicts the reality of happenings in the country, where police repression and military brutality characterize almost every response to socio-political problems like the Anglophone crisis and others. The reaction comes on the heels of a speech to the diplomatic corps during the recent New Year wishes ceremony at the Unity Palace. One of the civil society leaders spoke to us, and Babila Jonathan compiled it in the following report.
I would like to reiterate this today. The path of arms and violence is very often a way with a dead end. A lasting and just peace, which alone can truly guarantee the survival of humanity, necessarily requires other means which cannot be those of war. Speaking to the members of Cameroon's diplomatic corps, President Paul Biya pointed to the fact that the use of guns does not often resolve conflicts. The statement sharply contradicts the reality of his government's efforts to resolve the Anglophone crisis and other socio-political problems in Cameroon.
De la République, dans son adresse au corps diplomatique,
Civil society leader Cyril Roland Béchon says President Paul Biya once more demonstrated his habit of often making use of empty sentences that sound wise or comforting but lack originality and depth.
Depuis 43 ans et plus qu'il est au pouvoir.
Adding that throughout his more than 4-decade leadership, he has been using violence and guns to solve socio-political conflicts. Citing the Anglophone crisis and the recent post-election social unrest, Cyril Roland Béchon decries deployment of security and defense forces to crush dissenting voices.
Il parle d'une paix juste et durable.
About sustainable peace mentioned by the head of state in his message to the diplomat, Cyril Roland Béchon points out the fact that justice precedes peace, and with hundreds of persons being unjustly detained in Cameroon, justice seems far-fetched in the country.
Babila Jonathan reporting there. While the government of Cameroon is still struggling so hard to manage waste, it's a different scenario in Agadir, a locality found in Morocco where the ongoing Africa Cup of Nations is taking place. Waste management in this place remains a top concern for the government. In Agadir, anyone caught violating waste disposal laws could face imprisonment. But how is waste managed in Agadir? A report on special assignment in Morocco's Magic and Gable gives us the information.
After the earthquake that struck Agadir in the 1960s, the city hasn't given up, but instead it has not ceased to reinvent, combining the past and modernity as it seeks sustainable development. Today, Both the city and peripheral zones in Agadi have the ambition to be clean, pleasant and respectful city. In the majority of the urban spaces, it is difficult to find dirt. When it rains heavily, the central town usually experiences the accumulation of waste, which is immediately taken care of by the waste company. In Agadi, the waste company can be seen 3 times a day gathering dirt with trash cans placed along the road, public spaces and areas with strong tourist influence like the beaches, parks, markets and emblematic sites. An essential strategy to maintain the tourist attractiveness of the city. Footpaths for pedestrian and green spaces also benefit from constant maintenance, promoting the sustainable adoption of good environmental practices. At the same time, the municipality is focused on environmental awareness and education. The inhabitants are invited to adopt responsible behaviors, especially through the sorting of household waste in order to facilitate recycling. The collected waste is then transported to the waste collection and valorization centers, which are integrated into the national waste management policy. As such, Moroccan legislation provides administrative and criminal sanctions in the event of an infraction. Fines that can reach very high amounts are considered, as well as imprisonment for most serious cases. Agadi is a modern city engaged in the implementation of a more sustainable waste management system, integrating recycling and valorization. However, major challenges persist, including the overflow of waste, requiring extension and improvement projects. The objective is clear: to ensure a total coverage of waste collection by 2030 and strengthen the integration of recycling by 2030.
Smart, we are hoping that Cameroon will be able to copy the good example. And now to sports. The semi-final matches of the Africa Cup of Nations are coming up on Wednesday in Tangier and Rabat. This follows the quarter-final games where Nigeria, Senegal, Egypt and Morocco secured their spots, knocking out Algeria, Mali, Cote d'Ivoire and Cameroon. Our envoy, Smaji Kangebo, spoke to a journalist in Agadi who gave an appraisal of the quarter-final games. His report.
Nigeria and Senegal from West Africa, Morocco and Egypt from North Africa. These are the 4 teams left in the AFCON adventure after quarter-final games which were played over the weekend. 4 matches, 10 goals scored during the quarter-finals. A journalist covering the tournament.
It has been a very interesting quarter-final so far at the AFCON here in Morocco. Beginning with the match Senegal versus Mali. I think the big names in football, in African football, in recent African football, they met at the quarterfinals, and now we've had the bigger names that have qualified for this competition. If you look back in the past, let's say 7 years or so, you see that those who have qualified for the semi-finals, they have been dominant in African football.
With past records showing that there is a high probability for the cup to remain in North Africa whenever they host the tournament, the sport journalist is fast to conclude that the semi-finals will be mouth-watering.
It's going to be a very interesting, semi-finals. I think that for some time now, the cup has always remained in North Africa when they host it. And maybe this time around, it might be Egypt or Morocco.
With the quarterfinal already done and dusted, some venues like Agadi, Marrakech and Fez hosted their last games of the AFCON over the weekend. But what has been the disappointment this far?
The first disappointment was that I wanted to see a replay of the finals of last AFCON, that's Nigeria versus Cote d'Ivoire. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. I wanted to see Pagu David triumph over the African continent. I didn't see that. Apart from that, I think the competition is going well.
It will be a West Africa versus North Africa affair in the semi-final that will be played in Rabat and Tangier this Wednesday.
Thank you so much, Smaji Kangebo, for those amazing reports. And now, Talking Point comes up next. Major Christian perspectives argue that the church should not stay quiet in the face of a suffering population, while the institutional church avoids endorsing specific political candidates or becoming a partisan entity, it has a moral and a prophetic duty to speak out against injustice, advocate for the vulnerable, and promote the common good. Recently, bishops in Cameroon were in Kumba to attend the National Episcopal Conference that was headed over by His Grace Andrew Nkia, who is the president of the National Episcopal Conference. During that meeting, he said, I quote, "Cameroonian people, take your responsibilities and leave bishops to preach their gospel. I therefore call on all Cameroonians of all walks of life to take their responsibilities as political actors and stop hiding behind the Catholic Church and expecting her to do their duty. An Episcopal Conference is not a party, nor is it an electoral commission or a constitutional commission to give results of elections. In various countries, the Episcopal Conference is not an institution to be manipulated by political individuals and stakeholders with grievances against the state." End of quotes. Are bishops running away from the responsibility of a good shepherd? Joining us live from the Federal Republic of Nigeria is a Cameroon-born Reverend Father. He goes by the name Rev Dr JAM Richard. He is the Superior General and Metropolitan of the Missionary Fathers of the Celtic Cross in Africa. Good evening, Father. It's a pleasure to have you on Talking Point tonight.
Thank you so much, Immaculate, for going. It's also a pleasure having you to have me on this program today. Thank you very much.
Father, the Catholic Church in Cameroon has been criticized for its perceived silence on issues of injustice and electoral fraud. How do you respond to allegations that bishops in Cameroon are running away from their responsibilities as spiritual leaders?
Immaculate, I think that we will first of all have to ask ourselves what the responsibility of bishops is. What are their responsibilities? And I think that the church gives threefold responsibilities of bishops, which is 1, to teach, 2, to sanctify, 3, to govern. And these threefold responsibilities reflect the mission of Christ as priest, prophet, and shepherd. So I don't think that the bishops are shying away from their responsibility. I think they are doing what they are supposed to do. The challenge here is that Cameroonians are tired of a particular system. And so they are looking for that person, they are looking for that Messiah who is going to take them out of that. And because of that, everybody has turned their eyes towards the Catholic Church and the bishops. But I think that as far as the bishops are concerned, they have tried their best to do what they can do, but their best is not best enough to the people. That's what I think.
You claim the bishops have 3 major responsibilities, which are teach, sanctify, and to govern. What about playing the role of a good shepherd? Isaiah 1 verse 17 to 19 says, "Seek justice, help the oppressed, defend the cause of orphans." And also we have Ezekiel 3 verse 17 to 18, which warns that if we don't speak out against injustice, God will hold us accountable, seeing all the violence that occurred before and after elections. Wasn't that a good opportunity for His Grace Andrew Nkia to speak out against some of such injustices that were recorded in this country?
Of the 26 dioceses in Cameroon, all the bishops are Cameroonians except one, which means that they, as Cameroonians, they also feel the pinch of what is happening, the challenges of the Biya regime, the 43 years that he has had, and the challenges, the bishops feel it. But I think that in January of last year, January 2025, the bishops came out with a communique after their 48th plenary assembly. And they talked about bribery and corruption. They talked about poverty. They talked about the crisis in the Northwest and Southwest. They talked about the crisis in the far north, in Marwa. And as far as elections are concerned, right back in that January 2025, the bishops called on all the stakeholders, ELECAM, the Ministry of Territorial Administration, to make sure that the elections are free and fair. That was a communique that the bishops put out there. And I think they went back right to what the bishops did earlier in 1990 or 1992, like that. So I think that the bishops have done what they are supposed to do. They are feeling the pinch, they themselves, especially the bishops of the ecclesiastical province of Bamenda. They are living in the crisis itself. They are living in the difficult moments itself. Those who are dying are their Christians. Those who are being kidnapped are their Christians. So there is no way that they are not feeling it. I just think that the challenge is that we want more from the bishops. The people want more from the bishops. The people want the bishops to say or do more than they are doing already.
Father, are you saying that the bishops should stay silent when Cameroonians are being killed, arrested, others even dying while in captivity? Are you trying to tell us that bishops have the role to stay silent in the face of all these adversities, in as much as we have seen some bishops coming out? We talk about the likes of Monsignor Kleda, we talk about the likes of Paul Lonti Kenye, we talk about the one of Yagwa, who came out. But what about the others, and especially the president of the National Episcopal Conference? Doesn't he have the staff of authority to stand up and speak out against these injustices?
We have had the example of the Archbishop of Douala, Samuel Kleda, the Bishop of Bafoussam. We have had them who came out and powerfully and spoke against the injustice of the society. We have had a clear position from the Archbishop of Bamenda, who is the president of the Episcopal Conference of Cameroon, who came out and said that violence only begets violence. I think that it is not a shortage of what the bishops have done. The bishops have done what they have to do, but you have to understand that the church can only appeal to the consciences of the leaders. The church cannot force the leaders to do what they are supposed to do. The church can only appeal to the consciences of the head of state, the prime minister, the defense people, every other person. But the church has no army to enforce that. The church can only talk. So when people say that the church is not acting, that is not true. The church is acting. The challenge is it is not acting in the way the people expect. Now, I think that the people want the bishops to say something particular. When it comes to the election, for example, many people want the bishops to say something other than what the bishops have said, because the bishops said that ELECAM and the Constitutional Council have declared already the winner of the elections. But the people are saying that the winner of the elections as declared by the Constitutional Council is not the real winner. So the people want the bishops to join them in saying that Paul Biya did not win the election. But that's not the duty of the bishops. That's not the duty of the bishops.
But if there's some truth about what is being said by the people, why not say it out? And given that the Church's Justice and Peace Commission observed elections in about 12,257 polling stations out of the over 31,000 polling stations, and the Church equally reported a positive assessment in those areas. Why did the Church not provide more detailed accounts of what observers saw, especially in light of reports of electoral fraud?
Now, the truth here the bishop sent out observers into the field. So they cannot say what they don't know. That is the truth. And you and I, clearly, we cannot say for sure that Isa Chiruma won the elections because we were not there. We are based on all what you and I know, sources from other sources from different people, different stakeholders. But officially, it is the duty of the Constitutional Council to declare the winner of the election. And if the Constitutional Council says that it is Paul Biya who won the election, what else do you want the bishops to do? The bishops have no other data than that official data. What the bishops have is what their observers in the field gave them. These other ones are just hearsay. I think all of us, we want a regime change. All of us, we are not happy the way things are happening in Cameroon. But then we must also be logical in our ways of doing things. We cannot go against the law. Remember that the church, the Catholic Church in Cameroon, has a diplomatic relationship with the state of Cameroon has a diplomatic relationship with the Vatican and the church, the state, meaning that the church cannot act outside the laws of the state. True, the bishops have to speak to power, which they have done.
The church monitored elections in Cameroon, but some say it didn't go far enough in denouncing irregularities. What do you have to say about that?
Now, Immaculate, I was in Cameroon on the day of the election. I drove from Bafoussam to Banjul, and from Banjul to Fumbot, and I left Fumbot and drove to Buda. Now, that is as far as I am concerned as an individual. As far as I'm concerned as an individual. In the polling stations I went to as a person, I cannot say who won because I didn't go there as an observer. I was just looking at what was happening. But if I tell you that the places I went to, I didn't see anybody fighting, I didn't see anybody arguing, I didn't see anything. So that is what I can tell you because that's what I observed. Going back to the bishops can only say what their 12,000 plus observers told them. The bishops cannot say otherwise. I will agree with you that in many polling stations, according to videos that we had online, the elections were not free and fair. In some places, the people accused the elecam officials and the rest. But I would say that as far as the bishops are concerned, I am not supporting the bishop. If it is about truth, I will say the truth as it is. But on this part, the bishops cannot say what their observers did not observe. They cannot. They cannot say what their observers did not observe. They can only tell you that according to our observers, this is what happened in the field. And also, as far as the conference is concerned, there is some distinction that I want to make. When Archbishop Andrew Nkea is talking, he is talking as the president of the Episcopal Conference of Cameroon. So he is talking in the name of all the bishops, in the name of the church that is in Cameroon. He is not giving out his personal opinion. So there are things that he cannot say, especially when they don't align with the doctrine of the church.
So what you're trying to say is that Cameroonians asking him to condemn the non-respect of human rights, the same as asking him to invent the truth. We all saw on the news what happened to some supporters of some political parties. Are you trying to say being a bishop makes you automatically deaf to the cry of the masses, or being a bishop doesn't make you a Cameroonian?
The church, one, will not promote violence. The church will not promote violence in any way, because violence only begets violence. When the crisis in the Northwest and Southwest started, the bishops of the ecclesiastical province of Bamenda wrote many pastoral letters. They were condemning whatever was happening, the excesses of the separatists, the excesses of the government security forces. And I remember a seminarian was killed in one of the parishes in Mamfe. At the time, Archbishop Kea was the bishop of Mamfe, and Archbishop Kea came out and said that those who killed the seminarians are government forces. He spoke the truth. So I don't see why, if there is some truth now, he will not say.
Critics say the church is being manipulated by some politicians and stakeholders with grievances against the state. How do you respond to these allegations?
Now, I just said that in January 2025, the bishops came out with an official communique. And just today, they have also come out with an official communique after the end of their 49th plenary. That is how Archbishop Kea speaks as the leader of the Episcopal Conference. He speaks through those communiques like that because he is the president of the conference. He cannot come out in an unofficial way. He only comes out officially after each plenary. They will have another meeting in April, I think after Easter, and after that he will still come out with an official communique. The thing is, many of us have not even read what he wrote. Many of us have not. I listened to him when he visited the Unity Palace. He was criticized for going to the Unity Palace. I listened to him when he was in Rome, when he talked about the aftermath of the elections. Many people criticized what he said. And I will still go back to say that after their visit to the Unity Palace, he said that they went for dialogue and then they proposed to the government. And those kind of meetings are very important for the bishops. I don't see why anybody was criticizing the bishops for attending. To many people, it's like the bishops went there to collect money. I cannot say much because I don't know exactly what happened inside the Unity Palace. But relying on what the president of the conference said, he said that they went there to dialogue with the head of state. They went there to dialogue and to bring their own proposals. And I want to think that they would have talked about free and fair election. They would have proposed how the state is supposed to move. So, picking on Archbishop Andrew Kea as an individual, we will have to know that he is representing a conference and must come out officially in the name of that conference to speak in the name of the church and not in his personal name like that.
Thank you so much, Father, for accepting my invitation on Talking Point tonight.
Thank you so much, Immaculate. The pleasure is mine. Thank you, and I hope our sharing will edify the people and clarify certain misconceptions about the bishops and the church at large. Thank you.
Cameroon-born Rev Dr JAM Richard, Superior General and Metropolitan of the Missionary Fathers of the Celtic Rock, speaking to us live from the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And that's what put a cap to tonight's edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Thank you so much for your keen attention. Stay in the company of interesting programs on Equinoxe TV. God bless Cameroon.